India is called a subcontinent. So, subcontinent means it has all the features of all the continents in it. So, this India is setting an example in a peaceful way to the whole world. So, India has enriched culture and tradition. Culture changes in India every 1,000 miles, and there are many saints who enlightened us from years, thousands of years ago when the civilization has started, and now India is setting an example to the world how to be peaceful, and this way is continued by the disciples of the saints, and such a disciple of Sri Maheshwarnath Babaji, Sri M, is with us today. He is conferred third highest award, civilian award, Padma Bhushan, and today we are very happy to have him in our studios. Namaste sir, welcome to Doordarshan.
Thank you.
Sri M lives in Madanapalle and he has many number of disciples, and he travelled across the world and across India setting many disciples to enlighten the spirituality in them. Sir, how are you attracted towards the spiritualism? At which age did you turn in the spiritual way?
Yeah. So, it was a little bit of elaboration. You know that I was born in a Muslim family in Kerala. I was like any other normal child. Parents were educated, we were quite wealthy and so on. When I was a small boy of 8 years, I was playing in my backyard of my house in the garden, when suddenly I saw a man standing there. It's not a vision, it's a real human being with matted hair and I have never seen anybody like that. No dress except a small cloth, and he called me close. Like, even though I was young, the first reaction would be to run away. Stranger with matted hair, but I went towards him. What I can't forget is his eyes. There were big eyes, and there was something about the eyes which. And then he put his hand on my head. Out of nowhere, I mean, I didn't know why he was doing that. And he said, "Samay hone par sab theek ho jayega." These are the only words he said. It took some time for me to comprehend what he was trying to say. And then he said, "Go back, wapas jao." So I started back. From that day, something started working in my head. Is this world all that is, or is there something else? When I looked at the clouds, I thought they were Himalayas, like mountains. And I started to meditate on my own. Nobody was there to teach me. He went off. I don't know where he went. He just walked out from the small gate and he was out. Till the age of 19, I continued some closing my eyes, meditating. Meanwhile, I read all the books available on the subject after this. Libraries are good in Trivandrum. So I read Swami Vivekananda, Aurobindo, whatever literature was available at that time, and I read through everything. And then, the age of 19, so that was the start. At the age of 19, I felt this irresistible desire to break free. So I felt I was in a cage. It was a golden cage, but material is not a cage. So I broke through and went off to the Himalayas. I am the only son in my family and I am the eldest. It must have caused a lot of pain to my parents, but I left. I went to the Himalayas, I wandered around, I suffered a lot because from an affluent household, you don't have food, you have to beg for food. It was very difficult for me. But I said, no, something is there calling me up there. So I went to Badrinath. I won't go. My autobiography is there, Apprentice to a Himalayan Master, a yogi's autobiography. So you get, to cut it short, I went to Badrinath and went to Vyasa Gufa, which is beyond Badrinath. There I met the same person who touched me when I was a small boy.
So you identified him there?
He said to me first words were, घूम फिर के फिर हमारे पास पहुंच गए तो. So I looked at those eyes, I could never forget those eyes from that time. Big eyes, I don't know how to say this. So then I told Babaji, look, I won't go anywhere, I won't leave you. मैं आपको छोड़ के कहीं नहीं जाऊँगा. We speak Urdu at home, so Hindi is not a problem for me. I said, he laughed and he said, हाँ देखा जाएगा. He said, that was our union after that. 3 years I continued with him in the Himalayas, walking from place to place. I know places in the Himalayas which are not still on the tourist circuit. Nobody knows. They are such beautiful places. This is how it all started.
So Himalayas, it's not a comfortable place to live in, because continuously living over there, from the South India especially, which is a very hot place. Have you ever felt of returning back?
Not during this 3.5 years, the first preliminary periods. Yeah, in between there was a little bit of a problem with the kind of food you get. Roti dal, I'm not accustomed to. See, there was an aim which was beyond all these things, inconveniences. So, since the mind was stuck there, all these things dropped away. And these 3 years I lived a life of heightened feelings and emotions, the higher levels. I learnt yoga, I learnt meditation, I learnt chakradharana. And Babaji was always teaching me, and his method of teaching was so wonderful. Today I try to impart this to our students, and we used to have dialogues. And if he wanted to teach the Upanishad, he did not need any Upanishad. There was no text. He would know everything, and we would just discuss it. And in about a day, I have, for instance, in one day, I have studied the Manduki Upanishad, which is so complicated. It has only 12 verses, but it is so complicated for people to understand. So I feel it's because there was a rapport between him and me, kind of rapport, and that rapport is because somehow the waves of his mind and my mind were moving in the same frequency when required. Whether required by him or required by me, I cannot tell you. So what happened, much knowledge came even without the process of actually going through the studying it hard. It just happens. So what I'm trying to say, if you need to pass something to somebody, the basic requirement is both minds should be in rapport with each other. If that is not established, you may learn things, but that is not education. It's not learning, it's by rote, it's memorizing.
Yes.
Memorizing is not learning. If there is true learning, the memorizing will happen automatically.
So for all this, we need a lot of Shraddha and Saburi.
Absolutely.
So this is most essential for any person to receive anything from the Guru.
True.
So your Guru enlightened you, and Guru's permission is essential for further going on in our life.
Right.
So how did your Guru permit?
Yeah. So Babaji, I call him Babaji, Maheshwarnath Babaji was from the Nath Sampradaya, Gorakhnath, Machindranath and so on, but his Guru was Mahavatar Babaji, who we call in our parampara Sri Guru Babaji. He was very clear that I had a unique role to play in society, first in India and then also in the world. He said, I will not allow you to become a monk. I had this great desire to wear saffron and shave my head, and it was a colorful picture I had in my mind. He said, no, you go back home. And he didn't say home, he said go back to the plains from there. Okay. And work and live like a normal person. Work for your living. As the time comes, you will get some signals, so get married, have a family life, have children. Will have children, he didn't say, he said lead a normal married life, and work for your living. you are not ready to teach. So wait for the signal. So I actually came back. I got my wife Sunanda is a Saraswat from Udupi, but she was teaching in the Rishi Valley school where I met her, because I had contact with Jiddu Krishnamurti. I was on the trust, so I met her and we got married. She is 8-9 years younger than me. So after that, only after my children were born, there were 2, 3 years, 4 years like that, 2 children. Then only around when I was 40, I got the actual understanding through certain signals that Babaji had told me that now I can teach. Till then I used to keep quiet. I used to go and sit at satsangs, listen to people talking. Sometimes I felt, what is this man saying? But I can't open my mouth because no permission to talk. So after 40, then I slowly started imparting what I know to a small group of people around me. From that, the Satsang Foundation was born. And from there, the Manava Ekata Mission was born. It was a gradual process. I did not rush. I did not, it just happened. And this is how Babaji instructed me to impart the knowledge to others. He said, sit across the table and talk to them.
Yes.
Don't keep people, don't let people crawl on the ground and you're sitting on a big throne. He said, out. All this is over. He said, new time is coming. The youngsters will not understand this kind of spiritual knowledge. Go to them, talk to them, play with them.
Yes. And regarding satsang, satsang basically, usually we will be seeing a group of people gathering. But what to my knowledge is, in between any two people, if the spiritual bond is there, a satsang can be established.
Absolutely.
How can you enlighten the people about
See,
it?
you look at the word satsang. I didn't go to a Sanskrit university, but I know Sanskrit. I don't know. I learned with Babaji. I can't define this. Satsang. The reason why in India today people don't understand many of the concepts of ancient times, or can be misunderstood, mistaught, propaganda is because we don't know this language. This is the language in which all our ancient scriptures, teachings were made. We don't know that. Very few people know it. Somehow, fortunately, I have a grasp of this language. So, the word satsang, it's 2 syllables, sat and sangha. Sat is a word which is very general and also can be particular. General in the sat means truth, any truth. Sat means that which is always there, as opposed to that which is here today and gone tomorrow. Permanent, always. And also it is the root of satya, of the truth, is sat, reality. Sangha is any group of people. It can be 2 or it can be 1,000. Coming together is a sangha. Sangamam.
Sangamam.
So, satsang actually means a group of people sitting down to understand the truth of the matter. Becomes a satsang automatically. And when both are interested, or more people, whoever are interested in that inquiry, then it automatically becomes an effortless movement towards the truth. There is no force there, because we are all interested in finding out. It's a joint venture, actually. Satsanga should be the word used for corporate, actually. It's a joint venture.
Okay. So, and in this, as you said, the corporate world. So, corporate world is always materialistic, and the whole world today, what we are seeing is a materialistic world. But still, many from the world are getting attracted to spiritualism and coming from all over the world to India.
Right.
In search of this spiritualism.
Yes.
Or self-quest.
Yes.
So, how are you enlightening the people there?
I am doing my job. I am sure they get from other sources also, but I am doing my job. When I also talk to, every year I go to the US. This year I couldn't go because of this pandemic. I definitely one address one discussion, one satsang is at the Google headquarters, for instance, in California. So I see that the corporate people, we cannot label them and say that these are only people who are interested in material. There are, every person, including the corporate genius, has in his mind or her mind an aspiration to grow. The only problem is they think growth means material. What they need to understand is that true growth is internal. Material, yes, you need to live in this world, you need material, but that is a byproduct of inner expansion. So this is what I put to them. Look, like suppose I want to build up my business, fine. I'm doing corporate studies and I'm working on it and I start an industry and then I succeed. But the success doesn't stop me from proceeding further. I need to expand. What I'm trying to make people understand, this desire to expand is innate in human beings. Innate. In fact, the word, the ultimate word for reality in the Upanishads is Brahman, Parabrahma. Brahman is the word, the root word of Brahman is Bru, which means to expand. It's built-in quality in all human beings to expand. We do it in small ways and we do it in big ways. I feel alone, I get married, I expand my family, then I grow, then children come, again there is expansion. Corporate world, I am expanding. The spiritual world, expansion means to go to the root of your being. And everything is quiet, and when you come to the root of your being, you find that it is the highest expansion possible. So all I try to tell the corporate people is, while you expand, of course, fine, do it. But don't forget that true expansion is internal. Turn around and look. The fragrance that you seek is actually inside you. You know, the famous weaver saint Kabir Das talked about the Kasturi Mriga, the musk deer, which has a, musk kasturi.
Yes.
It develops in a small pouch under his belly. But when the fragrance comes, the deer thinks it is coming from somewhere else.
Yes.
And it goes looking for it everywhere. This is the same situation with us. The fragrance is here and we look for it there. So once you find the fragrance here, you can also share the fragrance there. This is what I am trying to say. Don't cut off. Along with your what in Vedantic terms is pravritti marga and nivritti marga. So you do your pravritti, your work, but don't forget that ultimately it is the nivritti, turning back within, is important. If we put it in these words, then even corporate people grasp what we are trying to say, because they realize that our expansion is unending, and then at some point we are frustrated because we cannot expand anymore. Turn in and look, ultimate expansion is in us, and you can share it with others. I am not against technology. Technology is wonderful, but technology should be utilized for bringing people together, not split people.
So the global village, today, this global village is made possible with the help of technology.
Yes, of course.
In the same way, we have a varied number of religions and varied number of preachers, but the whole preachings or the whole religions will be having only one thing, the internal peace. So how are the people from various religions attaining this spirituality?
Look, if you have to distinguish between religion and spirituality. One can be extremely so-called religious, visit temples, visit mosques, visit dargahs, visit churches. You can be performing rituals, but I think that is only the outward religion. Internal religion is religiosity, which means goodness of mind, less selfish, more selfless. That's where spirituality starts. Spirituality is the essence from which many religions have come. If you look into most religions, world religions, you will find the religions were created after some time by one person who had some spiritual experience. Any religion. I know about Islam and about Christianity. Except that in India, in the Indian context, there is not an input from one person but from many. That way it is quite expansive. No doubt, you can't deny that. There are hundreds of rishis contributing to this. Generally, you have only one teaching, which is okay. I am not saying there is anything wrong with that. All I am trying to prove is that it is the spiritual experience of an individual which has resulted in the creation of a religion. So, the spiritual experience for me is more important. Now, for spiritual experience, you need to not only go within yourself and figure out your true essence, you need to also change your life and become more selfless, more kind, more compassion. So, the human change is very important for religiosity. So, even if you say I am very religious, if that element is missing, the spiritual element is missing, then it's okay, it keeps things in order in this world, but it doesn't take you to the a real feeling of being global citizens. We are all one. It's very interesting. 2000 years ago, the Rig Veda, the oldest of the texts we have today, said, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vedanti, which means there is only one truth, but the wise men may call it by different names. How can somebody say that 2000 years ago? Just imagine. Today we are still fighting. 2000 years ago somebody is saying this. So, the true essence of religion is like an elephant, big elephant, and the different people who interpret it in different ways are like the blind men who went to see the elephant. There's a story. It's
the perception will be very
different. Perception will be. So, if you understand this much, then we are at peace. If I say no, my perception only is correct, then we are in trouble. So, this is exactly what I am trying to move. I am friendly with everybody. I go to church, I go to temples, mosques. I haven't gone for a long time, but I go. I especially go to the saints' tombs like dargahs and so on. I travel extensively in the Himalayas. I do all that, but what I keep in mind is there is no single interpretation for truth. There must be varied interpretations.
So, in this varied interpretations, we will be listening of many terms like yoga, arising or awakening of the Kundali, or different types of yogic techniques and quest with the soul, and there are a lot number of terms. Which do you say is reaching the spirituality very fast?
Before I say this, I must clarify that today many places, I won't say totally, even the spiritual has become corporate and commercial. I don't know whether it's good or bad, but it has, unfortunately. For me, I see it as an unfortunate circumstance. So, all these words have been bandied about quite a bit. The other day I was looking at a magazine, it said, you pay 3,000 rupees and in 3 weeks your Kundalini is awakened. Now look, thousands of years people have been practicing. Yogis have been practicing a whole lifetime to begin at some kind of an awakening. How can you do it for 3,000 rupees in 3 weeks? This is not possible. So we have to look a little critically at some of these aspects. But you can't deny the fact that there is tremendous energies exist in the human system. You may call it Kundalini, you may call it Prana, Mukhya Prana, you call it what you want, but there are existing in us tremendous energies. So what was your question? I got.
So how people are directed towards the particular spirituality, right. Because all the people cannot follow only one type of yoga technique or one type of meditation or something.
Exactly. So that's the point. So look, you are using the word yoga. The Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. Each one is called a yoga. Arjuna Vishada Yoga is the beginning, first chapter, which means the yoga of Arjuna's sorrow, Arjuna's confusion, Arjuna's indecision. The Sanskrit word has many meanings. So I think for all human beings, we stand at that threshold. We are all Arjunas in some way. Sometime in life we are battered. We feel terrible. We want to move forward. That's the start of the spiritual journey. Now, once it has started, depending upon the person's personality, background, emotional content, intellectual capacity, and so on, a teacher will be able to direct the person to a different path. I think that different paths may lead to the same goal, just as the little rivulets go and meet in the ocean. But what each person should follow, which rivulet he should take to reach the ocean, this can be decided only from knowing the person's background, emotional. So there are people who don't want to intellectualize on this matter at all. Fine, there are such simple-minded, good people. Bhakti Marga is for them, because they're basically very sentimental, very emotional. So that approach takes them there. See, if you don't enjoy a path, you cannot travel much. So if you are an emotional person, if there is no element of emotionality in your approach, then you will not last long. You will get out of it. On the other hand, there are people who are built in such a way they like to sit calm, meditate. Padma. For such people, what we normally call the Raja Yoga, Hatha Yoga, that is good for them. For others, read the Bhagavatam, the Bhakti part touches them. There are some who are so intellectual, they say we want explanations for everything. Otherwise we can't walk on this path. We are searching, but we need to be, for such people the Jnana Marga is a better way to go. Because their Upanishads are full of dialogues and discussions, and perhaps they are very ancient also among all these. But they have these dialogues which prove to you after a while that the very intelligent person discovers the limitations of the intellect. Only the most intelligent man can quickly discover the limitations of the intellect. Once you have found out, oh, this argument, discussion, dialogue is not taking us anywhere, but for that you need to go through it. Then you say, is there something else? Then the heart opens. Then the brain is at a standstill, then the heart opens. So, depending on the person's nature, we have generalized a few, but there are millions of people on this earth. There may be different permutations and combinations. So the main thing, to begin to teach the person to walk on any path of yoga. I call yoga, by yoga I mean not just asanas, the path, is to first be familiar with that person and to find out what would appeal to that person. And if you don't know that particular field in which that person is probably going to succeed, then let the person go to someone who knows that. See, look, I'm not in a business of collecting disciples. So if I find that what I teach is not suitable to somebody, I always direct them somewhere else. Please, people come to me and say, we are bhaktas, we like to sing and do puja and dance. I say, sure. I know that type of person. I explain to them. I say, go, I think something like the Vaishnava Sampradaya is good for you. Go to the ISKCON or something. Of course, I'm not saying ISKCON in the sense of the organization, but that approach, singing, dance, kirtan, bhajan. There are intellectuals who don't like it at all. They say, oh, this is an emotional high. Okay, then you read the Upanishads. There are people who say we follow a particular religious text and we will follow the process. Fine. Pray 5 times a day. Do what you are doing. Only thing is, what I object to is somebody saying that this is the only best path and there is no other path. No.
Okay.
The human mind is complex. This cannot be. Maybe for you, may not be for somebody else. So when you see this, then you are together with everybody. So, and India is such a vast land, and you didn't ask me about this, but
Yeah, in this context, the travel and the journey, and India is very vast. So to cover many people or to reach many people, you did the Padayatra. So what are your experiences over it?
see, it was in 2015, 14-15. I was 65 years old or so at that time. We started a walk from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, through India, cutting through most parts of India. We were on the road. There was no political agenda. We called it Manav Ekta Mission, Walk of Hope, Asha Yatra. And we walked for 1 year and 4 months actually. We were on the road. In between I stopped because suddenly I got an invitation from the Pope to come and see him. So I stopped the yatra just before we entered Jammu for 1 week. I went, I got a visa, went to Italy, met him to explain to him what we were doing. He was so thrilled. He said, "This is wonderful," and I came back. So in between I broke. Once I broke because my daughter wanted to get married when we reached Bangalore. So there were little breaks, but generally it was continuous. So 7,500 kilometers we walked almost, doing average of 20-25 kilometers a day. What I saw was that India is such a vast country. Really, deep down, nobody wants to hurt anybody else actually. It is the propaganda that makes them, different kinds of propaganda, political, religious, and so that makes all this violence. There is the heart of the average Indian is a good heart. You see, we couldn't give them much, but we learned a lot from them. You go sometimes walking. You go to a small village. The population is only 500, rural area. Already somebody has told them that someone is coming. They don't know who. Some M is coming. No, I call myself M because M is the first letter of the word Manushya. Okay, not because of my name M, but this is the reason. Somebody, Shri M is coming, so they are all waiting. In Maharashtra, Gujarat, with Gandhi topis, dhotis, they welcome you, take you, make you sit under a peepal tree. They don't have enough food to eat. They make sure that you have a cup of tea. You know, somebody says, "Hey, go bring some tea." So we sit down, have tea, talk about the problems. They know that this fellow is not come to take away our land. And then they say how I went to a small village where there is one Muslim family living and there are all other Hindu families, 600 households. There is a tomb of an ancestor there. So I asked them, who is looking? We are all looking after it together. What about this family? Yeah, they are with us. They are us. We are same. There is no difference. But see, this is some aspect of India which is really amazing.
But still today, people are in quest. So, in quest after reaching certain age or after reaching the reality that the world is not materialistic, we have to go for something else. But training from the childhood is a different issue.
True.
So, how are you training the children?
So, while the children need to also have interest in the material world, and because they have to survive, they have to live, they can't suddenly break the structure. We should also from the beginning inculcate a spirit of inquiry, freedom, and the quest for the deeper levels of the soul in them from childhood. So, like for instance, we run schools. We have Satsang Vidyalaya, we have rural school, we have a People Grove school in Sadum, near Chittoor. this is a boarding school. It's like a Gurukula actually, but boys and girls both are there. What we try to get the children to understand is learning is a process which is a growth of the mind rather than putting in some information. Today information is available on Google. You don't have to store all the information here. Not required. It's actually a good thing. So what? So what is education? It's a growth from inside. It's not from outside. It's inside out. It's like a lotus or a flower blossoming in the heart. This is knowledge. This growth. So for that you require physical, mental and spiritual sustenance. All three are required. To whatever level possible, we should provide all this to them. Don't impose anything on them. Get them to think for themselves. Stand on their own feet. If they don't learn to stand on their own feet, all the information that you have given to them is useless. And from that develops a healthy feeling of that all human beings are actually similar. There is no difference. There may be external differences, but deep down we all have fear, we all have anger, everybody has some, we all have love and affection, sometimes there is hatred. It's a common human quality. It's not as if we separated, so this fellow is bad, this fellow is good. There are good and bad qualities in every human being. So from childhood we try to make the children understand it's a question of tapping what you want, good or bad. Learn to live like that. What I am trying to say is, when you look at a human being, whoever the person is, religious, philosophy, political, whoever the person is, every human being has some good points. Why don't we look at that and forget what is not good? If we can live like that, then the other person will also understand how to live.
Yes.
Then you can stay together. Togetherness is what we are seeking. In beautiful sloka in the Rig Veda, Sangachatvam, Samvedatvam, Samvomanam Sijanatam, 2000 years old. Sangachatvam, let's walk together. Samvedatvam, let us study together. Samvomanam Sijanatam, with our minds put together may we understand. Actually that is the motto of Satsang Foundation. We should think of ourselves as human beings first. Then that we belong to this ancient country with a glorious culture. 2. And 3. That ultimately every human being is valuable. Every life is valuable.
So India, it has a largest number of youth are present now in India.
Yes.
So how can you enlighten the youth or direct the youth towards building a more peaceful and happy society?
Right. Look, this is an advantage that we have. The youth ratio is increasing. It's a great advantage because they are the future of this world. Forget about India, the world. They are the future. So if they are the future, then they have to be made to understand that the whole world is one. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu is not today. It's a 1000-year-old saying. I am asking not for the welfare of my house or my country. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu, the entire world. So this thing should be inculcated in the youngsters. If this point is stuck in their minds, then not only will the country where they live improve and grow, the whole world is going to have advantages. So this is what we are trying to do. So when we see not only our schools, I go around, I go to many schools, I talk to them, talk to teachers. Sometimes it's amazing. You go to a very big kind of what we call nowadays residential school and you talk to children, and then you go to a small government school in a corner of a rural area and you talk to those kids. Sometimes I am amazed that those kids sitting there with no facilities are so intelligent. I went to Indore, in some rural area in Indore. There was a small school, 200 kids sitting there. Oh, building is dilapidated, everything is falling to pieces. The question they asked, I was amazed. Our children who go to this big Christian school, they hesitate to even ask. They have some
Hesitations.
Open. Why is your name like this? हाँ, आपको क्यों एम बोलते हैं लोग? एम तो अंग्रेजी है, हिंदी में क्या बोलेंगे? You know, when you see that, you know that this youth has so much potential. I'm not only talking about the elite youth, even in rural areas. So that they are the people who should be properly built up. You have a sound India and a sound world.
So youth, as you said, it is the backbone, and reaching this spirituality or reaching the soul, knowing our soul, in this we'll be listening to many words like pranayama, kriya yoga, or various other terms. So, or meditation, very simple to say. So how can one know which path to follow to realize the self?
Now this is a very large question. I cannot explain this to you in few words. It's a process, it's not a short process, a very long process. First, we should know the students' minds before we can prescribe what is best for them. But certainly some form of yoga is essential. When I say yoga, I mean something which can make a human being, especially the young child, turn within and see that there are tremendous treasures inside which may not be there outside. So that is required. So for that you need to sit with people and talk to them to decide which is more suitable for them. But that they need something other than material fulfillment is 100% sure. There is no question about that. What to follow, which to follow, that depends on the different mindsets of human beings. I cannot make a general statement on it. Well, my practical parampara is Kriya Yoga, right? But Babaji has always said that don't think that people who don't practice Kriya Yoga are not enlightened. There are many people. What Kriya Yoga did Mirabai practice? Nothing. Okay. The other hand, in the Jnana Marga, what Kriya did Ramana Maharshi practice? Tirunamala? Nothing. So it's not a criteria that you should have Kriya, then only, no. However, Kriya is a wonderful system because it's a step-by-step way to calm your mind down, balance your pranas through pranayam, and to awaken the inner energies which are in us. I don't want to give a particular name for it. We can say it's the Shakti in us. So that is Kriya. So for those people who want to have a systematic training, like a scientific training, like in the lab you do something and come to a result, Kriya Yoga is a very good practice. But I will not say that those who have not practiced Kriya have not found salvation. This I cannot say. There have been great many people who probably didn't do any Kriya which I am talking about.
Okay.
Plus, Kriya is a word which means practice, Kriya. So, there may be many other Kriyas.
Yeah.
When we say Kriya, we are talking about the parampara which has come from Sri Guru Babaji or Mahavatar Babaji, whatever you want to call him, which I have got through Maheshwarnath Babaji. This is the Kriya I am talking about. It is also roughly the same Kriya that Yogananda Paramahamsa talked about in the autobiography of a yogi.
So for a lay person, so all the technical terms are not very important. But to reach the Tadatnya level, so music also adds to it.
Of course.
So how can you say that
look,
using the music
absolutely.
to enlighten the people?
Now they have gone on to my favorite subject. You see, you may not do Kriya, you may not do yoga, you may not be interested in philosophy, possible. But a person who has an innate desire for singing or playing instruments and getting absorbed in music is already a spiritual seeker. Whether he does other things, not important. Already a spiritual seeker, because music, it's a little bit, anyway. If you think carefully, no one thinks without a language. Everybody thinks with some language. You may not speak it in your mind. You say, I have to go there, you're thinking, wahan jana hai, or akadapoli. Something in our mind. There is some language which is associated with our thought. We cannot think without a language. Right? So that is why we are stuck in this conditioned world. Because we are conditioned by language, by nama and rupa, by name and form. So now here is something which does not depend on language, and therefore is the link between me, my mind, and that which is beyond. That is music. Someone is playing the flute. Need not be Vrindavan. Somebody is playing the flute somewhere. It's pure music. There are no words, no lyrics. Pure music. Your mind is absorbed. It's enjoying it. So that is the bridge between the world of words and that which is beyond. It's an intermediate thing. And it's a great link. Tyagaraja Swami reached the highest spiritual level simply by singing.
So this music being a divine language, we would like to hear a bit from you also.
I am not much of a singer, but maybe I can chant something, because chanting is singing, but in a certain meter. So there is a beautiful chapter in the Gita, in the 15th chapter, called Purushottama Yoga. Talks about an upside down Ashwatha tree whose roots are up and the branches are below. Normally we see trees the other way around. So that I will sing the first two slokas. I don't need to explain it, but shall I? Shall I do that?
Yes, sir. Please, a bit of singing for our listeners.
Okay. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Panchadashodhyaya. Shri Bhagavanuvache. Urdhumulamatha Shakham Ashvattam Pravuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavit. It goes so like that.
Yeah. So many people, very limited number of people can reach a guru. Then what about the other people who can't reach a guru? That is through other media like books, videos, or teachings. So through this way, one can also get the enlightenment. So how are you helping the?
Look, the way things are, sometimes it is better not to get trapped in the wrong guru than to have no guru at all. Because sometimes you don't know how to find out and you may end up with someone who is exploiting you. This is also possible. So sometimes it's good to be free of that. If you have a heart, and say, look, I don't want anybody, I want you. Talking about the higher spiritual God or whatever you want to put. Then you can also do without. There have been great many teachers and saints who have had no gurus. But the sincerity has to be there. If there is no sincerity, then nothing is possible, especially on the spiritual field. Some of the greatest of the spiritual people like Ramana Maharshi did not have a guru. But he was intent on finding something. So he found it. Maybe in his past, if you are believing in past life, he must have finished a lot of training and come now. Possible, but we don't know. Let's leave it there. But he didn't have a guru. Understood. So there are many texts available to us, unfortunately. Only thing is they are so complex and so many that you can get confused. So even if you don't want to accept somebody as a guru, it's good to accept to have someone who has traveled on the path and who knows the pitfalls and who can guide you what to read, what you need not read now, what you should read now, without even accepting that person as a guru. If such a guide is there, it will be very useful. Otherwise, it's such an unexplored territory that you can end up in all kinds of pitfalls in the spiritual journey. So if somebody is there, you say, okay, you read this now, then later on if you can read this, that kind of help is really very good. But what you have to remember is it is the aspiration and sincerity which is more important than even having 1 dozen gurus. And there are some people who are very funny. For 2 years they have one guru, then for 2 years they have another, then they are looking for something else. In the end, after 10 years, they don't know where they are traveling. So this can also happen. So I would say there are lovely texts available. My suggestion would be to read the writings of Swami Vivekananda. If you are educated and if you can read English, the writings of Swami Vivekananda, the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, are excellent places to start. That doesn't mean that after reading them you should join the Ramakrishna Mission. I am not saying that. After reading that, your mind grows and then you can decide which path to take. But please remember, for the basic understanding that you would need for a spiritual journey, one is that you are keen and really interested in finding something other than this world we live in. That there is something in us which is of its true essence. It's a beautiful song by Shankara Bhagavatpada, Adi Shankara, called Nirvana Shataka, which is the essence of all the Vedantic teachings that we have today. He says, I am not the world, I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am not the intellect, I am not the guru, I am not the shishya. I am actually of the nature of bliss and consciousness. I am Shivam, Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. This is what we are actually seeking. To understand that we are not this little limited thing we are identified with, but much beyond. That we are a spark of the divine, okay, a part of the divine. If this concept is even theoretically understood, would you disrespect anybody? No. There is a spark, whether you see it or you don't see it. If I see it, how can I disrespect somebody? Now, the idea of
that self-realization has to be attained.
Yeah, but at least theoretically one needs to understand this before one goes into the actual. And the constant thinking of that itself will lead you into the self. All I am saying is it is not so complicated. It's actually simple, but people's resolves are not steady. That is the problem. It gets moved off very fast. I say, now I am going to 3 days sit and do my bhajan kirtan, this. Then suddenly there is some program on the TV and we are caught up and then it's all gone. So the resolve is not there.
So those people who are interested in your way of teaching, but they can't spend the time with you or to reach you. So your writings,
Available.
That will be very helpful. So could you mention a few of it?
Yeah, you can also find it on internet today.
Okay.
See, this is what I say, that I am not anti-technology, because it's useful. If you go on to YouTube, for instance, and put on Sri M in the search, you get, even day before yesterday I just finished some. So you get so many satsangs, so many talks on different topics. Satsangs in India, satsangs abroad, everything is there. It's easy way to study. Put on the headphones and listen carefully, so you can figure out what you really want. What you don't want, you discard. Then there are written books also available on Kindle, Amazon, also printed.
Could you please mention the titles, please?
My autobiography is there. I think you should first read that to understand me first, and what I'm trying to say. It is called Apprentice to a Himalayan Master, a Yogi's Autobiography. I am not the hero in the autobiography. The master is the hero. Then the second book is called The Journey Continues. It's a little bit complicated because I have discussed some aspects of past life and things which people can't. But it's interesting to read like a story. Let's say you read it like a story. Then I have 3 books on the Upanishads called Wisdom of the Rishis. I've done 3 plus 3, 6 Upanishads, principal Upanishads. Then there are a few other books also on talks on Gita, talks on Upanishad, and so on. So this many books are available in print. I have also written a novel, a fiction called Shunya, with Amazon, and a collection of short stories is coming out in November from Penguin, because sometimes I found it easier to express things through fiction than non-fiction.
So what is the message which you would like to convey to the viewers?
Message is that basically we are all one. We all think of everybody as human beings. Forget about what names they possess or what they define themselves as. Don't worry too much about that. Consider them as human beings. Since they are human beings, we are all linked together as one, whatever external differences. And second thing I want to say is that we are all sparks of that one divine, and therefore every human being is a walking, talking, speaking temple of the Supreme, because inside the heart there is this flame. Keep that in mind and live our lives. Whatever we do, I think things will turn out to be okay. We lead a peaceful, happy life, share what we have with others, and carry on.
Thank you, sir. So we wish you a very long journey in enlightening all the people towards the spirituality and making the whole nation and the world very peaceful and happy.
Thank you
very much.